I couldn't believe my eyes. There she was, my little sister, Madeline Hayes, lounging on my couch like she owned the place. My apartment, the one I'd worked so hard to afford, was suddenly her new home. And then my phone buzzed with a text from my mom. "We figured since she's staying with you, you could cover her rent. Thanks." I froze, heart hammering. My hands shook. I stared at Madeline, who was grinning like this was all normal, like I was overreacting.
How could they do this to me?
My parents, the people I trusted the most, had just handed my financial independence over to my 15-year-old sister without even asking me. I wanted to scream, but the words caught in my throat. All I could feel was a rush of anger, humiliation, and betrayal. Enough was enough. What would you do if your parents expected you to pay your siblings' rent while she lived in your home? Would you confront them, or let it slide? A comment below. I really want to know what you'd do in my shoes. I'm Samantha Sam Carter, 26, living alone in a small downtown apartment I'd painstakingly saved for. Life had finally started to feel like mine. I had a stable job, a cozy place, and a routine I loved. My parents, Richard and Clara Carter, had always meddled, but I never expected this. My sister, Madeline, was always the golden child, charming, manipulative, and somehow able to get away with everything. Growing up, she never worked for anything, and my parents were her enablers. I had tried to be patient, but her sense of entitlement seemed to grow every year. The betrayal hit me like a slap. I'd come home from work that day, expecting a quiet evening, only to find her moving in. Boxes were stacked neatly in the corner, and she had the audacity to look excited. When I confronted Mom and Dad, their explanation was like a punch to the gut. They thought it was a family favor, and it was only fair I helped her out. I felt crushed. Not only was my space invaded, but my hard-earned independence was being ripped away. The humiliation of being expected to pay for her lifestyle, while she smirked on my sofa, ignited a fire in me. This wasn't just about money, it was about respect, boundaries, and finally standing up for myself. The first week was unbearable. Every time I came home, there she was, Madeline, singing loudly in the kitchen, raiding my fridge, leaving her clothes strewn across the apartment. I tried to speak up, calmly at first. "Can you at least clean up after yourself?" I asked one evening. She laughed. "Relax, Sam. Mom and Dad said this is fine. Chill." I felt small, dismissed, and powerless. I started questioning myself. Was I being unreasonable? But the anger bubbled beneath the surface. I had built this life piece by piece, yet my parents treated me like a bank account for my sister's convenience. Nights were the hardest. I'd sit on my bed, staring at the ceiling, imagining ways to reclaim my home, my dignity. I tried confronting my parents again. "This isn't fair. She's your child." "Yes, but why am I paying her rent?" I asked, voice shaking. Richard shrugged. Clara gave me that condescending look that made my blood boil. "Sam, it's family. You'll understand one day." Understand? Understand what? That my boundaries meant nothing to them? I felt isolated, trapped in my own apartment. Madeline seemed oblivious to the emotional chaos she caused, smiling as she set up her corner of my life. But every insult, every dismissal, only strengthened my resolve. I realized that if I wanted peace, I had to take control. Not just for money, but for my sanity, my independence, and my self-respect. I started paying closer attention to her habits, noting her pride in little victories, like stealing my favorite coffee mug or borrowing clothes without asking. I knew her weaknesses and her sense of entitlement. A plan began to form. If she thought she could waltz in and take over my life, she had another thing coming. I didn't act immediately, but every day I gathered intel. I observed her routines. She left her laptop unlocked. She bragged to friends about how easy life was with me footing the bills, and she was careless with money she didn't earn. I started small, removing her favorite snacks from the kitchen, subtly changing her comfort zone, letting her feel the inconvenience she had caused me. I dropped little hints that she wasn't in charge here, and though she complained, I kept calm, letting her frustration simmer. The fire inside me wasn't just about inconvenience, it was about justice. I wanted her to understand what it felt like to lose her sense of entitlement. I didn't want to hurt her physically, but I needed her to respect me. And while my parents remained blissfully unaware, I secretly smiled. The seeds of my plan were planted. Soon, everything she took for granted would be turned upside down. One Saturday morning, I executed the plan. I invited her friends over, but on purpose, I had forgotten to clean up the apartment. I left little notes and set traps that would make her uncomfortable without causing damage. A locked cabinet with her favorite snacks, mislabeled laundry baskets, and rearranged furniture, so she kept bumping into things. As she fumed, I casually suggested, "Maybe it's time you contributed a little more around here?" She rolled her eyes, but I stayed calm, a quiet satisfaction building. Then came the final touch. I called our parents and pretended to be a landlord, claiming I was adjusting the rental agreement due to occupancy changes. I watched as Madeline's smug confidence faltered. She confronted me, her voice shaking for the first time. "Sam, what are you doing?" I smiled. "Teaching you boundaries." The expression on her face, confused, frustrated, and powerless, was intoxicating. For once, she wasn't in control. By the end of the day, she had packed her things, agreeing to move back to her parents' house. Richard and Clara called, furious, but I calmly explained I had to reclaim my space. They eventually backed down, realizing my resolve was stronger than their favoritism. For the first time in weeks, my apartment was mine again. I sank onto my couch, relief washing over me. I didn't gloat. I didn't need to. The satisfaction came from knowing I had stood up for myself and restored my independence. Looking back, I realized that standing up to Madeline wasn't about revenge in the traditional sense. It was about reclaiming my dignity and my space. I learned that boundaries are not optional, even for family. I also discovered strength I didn't know I had. Anger can be constructive if channeled properly. It can push you to take action instead of remaining a passive victim. While I had moments of doubt, I never wavered in my decision to assert myself. This experience taught me the importance of self-respect. You can't allow others to walk over you, no matter their relationship to you. And yes, consequences may come, but they are manageable when you act with purpose. I hope others in similar situations realize that it's okay to stand firm. Protect your life, your home, and your independence. The world will always have people trying to take advantage, but how you respond defines your strength. Months later, my apartment feels like home again. I've repainted the walls, added personal touches, and even started hosting small gatherings of friends without fear of disruption. Every corner reflects my effort, my work, and my independence. Madeline and I still talk occasionally, but the dynamic has shifted. She no longer assumes I'll accommodate her whims. My parents, too, have learned that favoritism has limits. I feel empowered knowing that I can enforce my boundaries without guilt. Financially, I regained control, which means I can plan for my future without being burdened by someone else's lifestyle. Mentally, I'm lighter, freer, and proud of the stand I took. Most importantly, I realized that empowerment isn't about lashing out. It's about taking deliberate, confident steps to reclaim your life. It's about being firm, composed, and knowing your worth. Every little action I took that week contributed to my newfound peace. My apartment isn't just a living space, it's a symbol of my resilience and self-respect. And whenever I sit on my couch, I'm reminded that standing up for myself wasn't just necessary, it was transformative. Sometimes standing up for yourself feels like revenge, but really, it's about reclaiming your life. I didn't just get my apartment back. I gained confidence, strength, and peace of mind. Boundaries aren't mean. They're essential. Have you ever had to assert yourself against someone close who crossed the line? I'd love to hear your story in the comments. Share your experiences, your triumphs, and even your mistakes. Let's support each other. And if you found my story relatable, don't forget to subscribe. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about hurting someone else. It's about proving to yourself that you won't be walked over.